This is Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, an in-depth interview with Alabama's top political newsmakers. Now, from the studios of Troy University, here is Steve Flowers.
I'm Steve Flowers, and welcome to Alabama Politics. Folks, we're very fortunate tonight to have as our guest one of my favorite guys in the legislature, a powerful but friendly guy, State Representative Andy Whitt from Huntsville. We're thankful he's on the show tonight. He's a good man and doing this thing for the right reason. He's a veteran legislator, but been real active, and he's also a prominent banker in Huntsville. And we're going to talk a little bit about how much Huntsville's grown in his lifetime. Andy, good to have you on the show.
Thank you, Steve. I've been looking forward to this for a long time, so certainly glad it was able to work out and me stop by for a visit today.
Well, I'll tell you how much I appreciate it, folks. He's sandwiching in. He's on the House Ways and Means Committee, which writes the state budget. But they going back in session, so he ran down here to our studio at the Rosa Parks building downtown Montgomery in between sessions. It's tough to tie these powerful legislators down during the session, but we're glad Andy Whitt took time out of his busy schedule to be with us. Now, Andy, is this your second or third term?
This is my second term, Steve.
Just second term?
I came in an open seat. I replaced Representative Phil Williams, who had served in that role for two terms, and so this is my second term.
Now, but you've always been a banker your whole professional career.
I have, yeah. I've been a banker since I started my early career as a 19-year-old kid at a community bank and cashing checks in the drive-through. And I didn't even have a checking account at that time. So I think
19 years old.
19 years old. I was going to school at night, and you know, my family's history's been in building and construction. So I assumed that I would take that role. And I, you know, on the side, I do have my home builder's license. But my father and both my grandfather were home builders and developers. So
in Huntsville?
In Huntsville in the Madison County area. So I just assumed that I would take that role.
So your grandfather and your father on your daddy and mama's side?
My dad's side.
Daddy's side are from Madison County.
Yeah, that's right. You know, I was talking to the young Republicans today. They had me over, and I certainly appreciate the young Republicans asking an older man to come speak to them. But I never pass up an opportunity to go speak and encourage our youth, because that's our future. And in banking, people often ask, Andy, what's the best investment we can make? What can we put our money in? And I never say always invest in our kids. That's the biggest return we can always have in that. So, you know, I've been a banker forever.
So you were a 19-year-old banker with a community bank in Huntsville?
Just a little town of Ardmore.
Yeah, I know Ardmore.
And we...
Is that where your family's from? In that
we are, and I was telling a group of kids earlier today, the young Republicans, I said, folks, let me tell you how much Alabama means to me. And let me tell you how much Madison, Limestone County means to me. My great-great-grandmother, many generations ago, was buried in Madison County territory in the state of Mississippi. So we came actually before the state was actually a state, and you know, through our lineage.
This is on your daddy's side.
This is on my dad's side. So if you take a 10-mile blanket and throw it over my farm up in northwest Madison County, I still have all of my family relatives are in the cemeteries there, the family cemeteries, and Alabama is my home, and I'm very proud to call Madison County my home.
Andy, you might see that same scenario down here in this part of the state, but you don't see that much.
No,
not as much as your area's grown. I mean, that area of Alabama, people do not realize what your home area. But you know, really and truly, if you think about it, Huntsville is, and your area is like Atlanta. You don't see many folks that are from there.
Yeah, so that, you know, I go to town hall meetings and they're having discussions regarding whatever the topics may be, but I always like to know my crowd. I like to know who I'm speaking to, and I ask for a show of hands. How many people's lived in Huntsville or Madison County over the last 10 years? And that number just continuously just shrinks and shrinks. And I was over in a town hall meeting over around Meridianville and asked that question, and there's about 40 people, and I think only 5 people raised their hands. So it's a growing, it's growing by leaps and bounds. We're taking in a lot of folks, from up north that are moving here. Obviously, California, we're having a lot of.
Because of the technology.
We do it because of the technology in our sector, what Huntsville is known for, and we're quite proud of that. I think there's 300 companies in Huntsville that are dedicated to aerospace and defense.
300 companies.
Yeah, so you look at that. As I was reading a stat, there's 53 countries currently at war. I did not know that, but there are 53 countries considered at war. So, with our technology, the rockets that are being built there, the ammunitions, the technology, we've got investments coming in from all over the world. There's been a couple of recent announcements where a company from UK purchased the rail car company that had been shuttered for a few years over in the Shoals area. Well, that was 1 million square feet that they came in and purchased, and they're going to be doing some naval stuff there. And then there's an Australian company that is opening up this month, actually, in Huntsville, that will do the powder coating spraying on airplane wings, rocket nozzles, 3D printing. It's just amazing stuff that's well over my pay grade, but it amazes me every day. And people always ask, was your family in the rocket business? Were you part of that? I said, oh yeah, we were all involved in the rocket business. We provided you homes. So we loved it when there was another BRAC announcement or there was a new job movement in there. And then of course, being a banker, I've been fortunate enough to see that growth and be part of that growth. And it's been very humbling to me. And I look back and it ceases to amaze me as I drive over the mountain and coming to Huntsville. As you know, we've got a cap on our building as far as the height of the buildings. We wanted to have
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we wanted to have that southern feel, small community. So we've capped the number of stories the buildings can be.
I did not. Maybe that makes sense about why it's spread out so much.
It's spread out, and
I learned something. I did not know that y'all got a height limit.
We do.
Because y'all didn't want to be in New York City.
We did not want to be that, and the forefathers years ago put that into place. So we wanted to have that small town. If you go to downtown Huntsville, it has that walkability. We have a beautiful park there, a beautiful art museum, and it has just really grown over the last, decade. But the quality of life is what draws people to Huntsville. It's our ball fields, it's our parks, it's the ballet, it's the Broadway Theater League, Orion Amphitheater, which was one of the best that you'll ever find in the country as an amphitheater. So. We've got things going in the right direction, we feel. Obviously, Mayor Battle has been a driving force.
He has been, hasn't he?
He has.
I've had him on the show a couple of times, especially when he was running for governor that time.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I says, and I wrote this before I asked him, I says, you think you can be enticed to run for governor after Kay Ivey quits in 2026? And he says, Flowers, I got a much better job being mayor of Huntsville than I do as being governor. And the way he said it, he meant it.
He does.
I had written that. He said, I read what you wrote. I said, Tommy Battle ain't going to be a candidate for governor. He probably could win, but he's got a better job being mayor of Huntsville.
He does, and it's just, we've added bike trails, walking trails. We're looking at some huge improvements as far as a pedestrian bridge that crosses the parkway that was soon to be done. The art scene is very active. The music scene is busting at the seams. So we're extremely excited to what's going on in Huntsville and the population. My dad, we were talking about my dad earlier. He said, okay, Andy, let's tap the brakes on growth because he's retired now. And I said, well, Dad, these companies are moving in. It's a quality of life. It's our business-friendly atmosphere that we've created in the state. He said, but I can't get my boat across Highway 53. So he's more worried about fishing at this age than he is building. So
Raby, our friend Steve Raby, I've known all these years. When he was with Heflin, we were good friends then, so we stayed good friends. Raby, I always ask him this. I says, y'all's place is growing so much. He said, yeah, Tree, I built way, way, way out in the country, and doggone, they ain't grown up around me.
They have. They
He
have.
said, we tried to get out in the country, and they have grown up around me. Another example I had was I was invited by Senator Shelby to come up for the FBI headquarters thing he had, and that's where last time I saw Tommy Battle. And they had buses. We met out at a shopping center, and they bussed us in to see the facility. And I happened to be on the bus. I guess we were late arriving. Me and Robert Adderholt and Caroline were on the bus together. As I will tell, don't forget to tell our viewers, it's your son and Caroline and
That's correct.
Daughter Mariella getting married in March. I'm coming to the wedding, by the way.
Yes, sir. Well,
March,
thank you.
March
We're very excited.
Thank you
about
for
it.
inviting me. But having said that, I knew that Caroline's history, that I knew her daddy when I was a page in the Senate when I was a younger man, and was starting in politics. Her daddy was a real gentleman, of course, long-term state senator and then agriculture commissioner, Albert McDonald, and then married Robert Adderholt, the congressman. But we were riding together, and we was passing hundreds of shopping centers and stores and residential areas. And I said, it occurred to me, I said, Caroline, was this your family's land? She said, yeah, it was. I remember riding a tractor with my daddy on this land. And it was miles.
Yes, it was, and to see Huntsville, what it has become is, County Line Road is now a 4-lane road that has a couple schools off of it. Really, one of the heartbeat main thoroughfares there in Madison. Well, when I was growing up, I would take that dirt road to the river, so I knew exactly where it was, and I knew where the farmland was, and it's grown up, and I was asking Mary Elliott, I said, now tell me exactly where your grandmother's home was at. She said, I think it's right here where the jewelry store was. So
yeah.
it has grown. I will tell you, we are very excited about our wedding that's upcoming. I tell a funny story. My son, Grant, met Mary Elliott down at BCA at Point Clear.
I remember them telling me that.
Yeah, and that was a love story that, someone was texting me and then texting Kurt Lee and just back and forth, and finally I think they went out while we were there, and then a year later at the BCA conference is where my son proposed to Mary Elliott. Yeah, so we celebrated and had a great time. And
That continues to that year between the two BCA.
Yes, they done it, and so I stood up at the BCA conference. I said, well, since we're all friends here, we'll just have our wedding back here, and Robert can invite everyone and take care of it for us. So, but we're excited. It's at the end of this month. So
yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. They'll live there in Huntsville, and I'm excited for that to keep them home.
Now let me ask you this about your district. Is it all in Madison County?
No, sir. So I represent Monrovia, which is just outside of Huntsville, north. To the Tennessee state line, and I'll butt Chairman Reynolds there in Hazel Green, and then I go all the way over in Limestone County, almost to the interstate, and then I'll head south, and Limestone County Prison is in my district.
You get Limestone.
Yes, sir.
And is Monrovia in?
Monrovia is in my district.
It's in Madison.
Mm-hmm. It's in the county. Unincorporated county, but it is in my district.
Let me ask this question. Do you know how many representatives, senators do you have coming in that have part of Madison?
So, I think it's a total of about 15 that we have there.
House members and
Senate. 14 or 15. I'll have to go back after check that, but
that's probably accurate. That's probably necessary and fair too, because I'll tell you this, I should go back so far in politics, I started paging in the House when I was about 12 years old. And it occurred to me as a 12-year-old boy, the legislature had not reapportioned itself since 1901.
Did
you know that?
I did
not know that. The lines were drawn, and we were the only state, maybe I should have said, how they got away with that for years, I'll never know. Do you realize the lines were drawn for legislative districts at 1901 Constitutional Convention, and it was a trade-off. They gave all those seats to the black belt because they had the political power with them. Mm-hmm. It was so malapportioned, Andy, that I knew this as a boy. I would look around the chamber, and I knew this. when the Constitution was written in 1901, my hometown of Troy had about 15,000 people.
Wow.
And you know Huntsville was about the same size. Huntsville had about 15,000 people. It was known as a cotton town.
Sure.
Because all that land, this is sort of a shame, really.
Yeah.
The land that y'all building on up there is some of the most fertile land.
It is.
That's where cotton was grown, and when the plantation owners came to the Black Belt and Huntsville when the state was formed. That's why the capital was Huntsville at one time.
You're right, and I tell people now, we have some large farmers up there today, and they're talking about their cotton crop and things, how the farming is difficult. I said, guys, you're no longer in farming. You're in real estate.
Exactly.
You have 2,000 or 3,000 acres in real estate in Madison, Limestone County. You're in the real estate business now.
They really are.
So
they've run farmers out of the business. And it's shame, it's pretty good land.
Yes, it has. It's been great land up there. It sure has.
And so your ancestors go back before the Civil War up there in Madison County, Monrovia area, and then or that area at Ardmore, and then did you always know where'd you go to college?
So what I went to Calhoun Community College at night.
People don't realize how big that school is now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I thought I had the best of both worlds. I was living at home. I had a sweetheart who I eventually married, Jennifer, and we've been happily married.
She's from there too.
She is. She's married for 27 years now, 2 kids.
So you're not about 50 years old.
I'm 50 years old.
You're not about 50 years old?
I'm 50 years old, yes.
You're a baby, ain't you?
I like to think so.
You're 50 years old.
I like to think that.
So you and your wife about the same age, Jennifer about the same age?
We are, but we were high school sweethearts. And that's something I'm very proud of because you don't hear that often anymore. But both our families live very close to us. We stayed there to raise our kids.
Your parents still living there?
Both my parents are still living. Her parents are still living. We see them on a regular basis.
Your daddy's not building houses anymore?
No, sir. He's retired.
Do you do that in addition to being
so
banking
I
too?
do. Yeah, I have run some partnership with a buddy of mine for many years to build houses. So we still continue that. I'm not as actively involved as I used to be.
Are you with a big bank or a community bank?
So I'm with a community bank.
What's the name of your bank?
So First National Bank. And First National Bank is headquartered out of Giles County, Tennessee. And years ago they passed a law to allow Tennessee banks to come into Alabama. So at that time, the community bank that I was working for was merging with a large, nationally recognized bank. And I'm cut from the old school. I want to make my own decisions. I want to look a man in the eye to shake his hand, and I do business the old-fashioned way. And I didn't think
you get financial statements and all that.
Oh, we do all that. Yeah, we underwrite it.
You don't just go in there and say, "I know Joe."
No,
good for him.
No, we're not like that anymore. It's not as in old days when you wrote a promissory note on a piece of paper. So, but we document and we look at it. But relationships mean things. Yeah. Something does, and I've always had an issue with bankers that wanted to bank you in the good times, but they didn't want to bank you in the bad times. So we see banking as a relationship and a partnership, and that's really got me into politics. What helped me.
Did you think you'd ever get into politics?
No, I didn't. I always thought that I wanted to serve. My grandmother was a founder of a volunteer fire department up in northwest Madison
Around
County.
Ardmore?
Yeah, in the late 1970s or early 70s. She was one of the original founders of our volunteer fire department. But she was a wise lady beyond her years. And
this your daddy's mom?
This was actually my mother's mother. Unfortunately, both my grandfathers passed away, one at the age of 40 and the other at the age of 52. So lost them early in life. So I didn't really know them that well. But both my grandmothers were special to me. And my grandmother helped was a founder of the volunteer fire department. So, but she knew with the volunteer fire department, what comes with that would be water lines, fire hydrants. Okay, we didn't have that in rural Madison County in the 70s. So she pushed the county commission to start putting those fire hydrants up. Had to have fire protection in North Madison County. Well, ultimately, to get the fire protection, you had to have water lines, your county water. What did that do? That opened it up for development. And she saw that. And that was a tool that now we had public water, we had public utilities, and then, you know, the rest is history there for North Madison County. So I like to think of her as an early economic developer before the time. And I'm just very proud of that because they always instilled in my family has always instilled in me to serve people. I do that. My wife volunteers. My son and daughter both are volunteers. To this day, they're 23 and 24, but we make time to serve others. So, you know,
is there 1 year difference in your daughter?
It is, yes, sir, it is. So what we had, you know, as far as a banking background, I would always be involved with economic development. I would be involved with trying to get a mayor elected, county commission, behind the scenes, working for politicians, working for Tom Butler, just different things as I was growing up. And I just knew that that was something that deep down I probably wanted to do because I wanted to make sure that our area had a voice in Montgomery. And so that's how I got started.
You know, Tom and I came to the house together in '82.
Yeah, well, I did not know that.
We were big buddies.
I had dinner with Tom last night. Great.
We're telling you on my show.
I will. He's a great mentor and a great friend.
I need to get Tom over here and be on the show.
He would be good. He has a lot of good stories.
We can talk about
over the
old-timey stuff. You know it. God, I just hadn't tapped the wealth of the legislature because for years I thought my show was just seeing the river region and the Wiregrass because it's filmed here.
Sure.
But technology is such now.
Oh, it's all over the state. Yeah.
Everybody says, I started, about 10 years ago, I had somebody in Huntsville say, Flowers, I saw your show with Governor Ivey. I liked it. I said, well, how did you see it?
Yeah.
And it says YouTube.
Absolutely.
That shows you how archaic I am.
Well,
you know, how backwards I am.
Well, you know, it's so, you know, I enjoy your show and enjoy the conversations that you have because we can take it down to a personal level. And, you know, politicians are often seen, you know, as out of reach, out of touch, and that's certainly something that I'm not. I put my cell phone on my business cards. I want you to contact me because I remember that I work for the people of Alabama. And if you lose that in politics, you probably need to go on home.
You know, where I was going with that thing about Huntsville and Troy being the same size in and when I was a page in the early 1960s, I'd look over the legislature and I'd tell my old representative from Troy, I said, Mr. Gardner, we got 2 representatives, and Huntsville's got 2 representatives, and we got 20,000 people, they got 200,000. That don't seem quite right to me. So I've always argued that when the courts took control, they went 60 years, Andy, without changing the line. That's how malapportioned it had become. Now it's right. The power should be in North Alabama. If you look at the committee chairmanships and the committee, the leadership, it should be in North Alabama. That's where the people are.
Yeah.
They're in Huntsville, Birmingham North.
Yeah.
They're Birmingham, Huntsville.
And I think if you look at the leadership map, you have seen a shift there to the North Alabama region.
And rightfully so.
You know, I was very fortunate enough to chair the Economic Development and Tourism Committee my first year. My freshman year of the legislature.
Because Mac was chairman or speaker.
Yeah, Mac was chairman, and I happened.
Speaker, I mean.
I happened to be on the committee, and unfortunately, you know, the vice president, the vice chair and the chair. Well, the chair got elected to a thing, and the vice chairman left the legislature, so that left me. And I called Speaker McCutcheon. I said, I know about economic development. I've done it, and I would like to be part of that. And they had already moved me up to vice chair. And then when our chairman left, they moved me into the chairman's position for that.
Who was chairman for you?
Becky Norgrim. Becky was.
Where was Becky from?
She was over from the Gadsden area,
That's
I think,
right,
somewhere over in that area. So learned a lot from her, and you know, it's a learning process. I'm headed back to this afternoon for a committee meeting, so I welcome anyone. You know, it's on television. I'd love for people to tune in to watch the committee meetings, watch the legislature. You know, my wife tunes in every day. to see what's going on, and she's texting me. Now, why would you vote this way? Now, tell me what's going on with the filibuster.
So she watches
So
it.
she watches it, and I encourage more people to watch it.
Is
and
it on
see.
YouTube or something like that?
Yeah,
It's
so
just on every show?
no, you can actually go on the state's website, and it has a link. The
How do they
LSA
decide
website.
what committees they go into?
So there's a list. You can
Uh-huh.
click on the House, the Senate floor, Committee Room X, whichever one you want to watch, and it's live streamed. And when we get into the new State House, it will be all modernized. So with all the committee rooms.
You're gonna run for re-election, aren't you?
I am. I've got a lot of things that I'd like to do up there. I made a promise of public safety. We've made some huge things, scaled some high fences, I would say, in public safety with our roadways and things. But there's more to be done, I think. I was able to work with ADM and the federal government and get a $25 million sewer remodeler plant for the little town of Ardmore, which is very near and dear to my heart.
Sure is.
But
Roots are there.
yes, but without the ARPA and ADM's help, we would have never gotten that $25 million. That changes a town. Our sewer treatment facility, we could never borrow that amount of money in the town of $2,500.
No.
So it had got to a point of collapse, and we really needed some serious repairs. So those are the things that I like to do. Work for my community, work for Ardmore, work for the small guy, and get things done. So
Yeah.
I've been fortunate, but I would like another term here and finish up some things.
Well, you're doing a good job. Hopefully and probably you won't have opposition. But I hate to say that, Andy, our time's up.
Well, thank you. Listen, you've made my day and certainly made it worth coming over today, and your hospitality, and I always enjoy it.
We got to do another show where we talk about some issues.
I'm ready to talk about
Toward the end
issues.
of the session, can we do it again?
Absolutely.
Let's
You call
get
me
you one
anytime.
afternoon when I know y'all are so busy right now. And folks, I still want to thank y'all for watching, and we want to thank Representative Andy Whitt from Huntsville for being with us. And you won't believe how busy his schedule is when they're in session. He just left his Ways and Means Committee to run over here real quick. He's got to go back in session.
Yeah.
We thank him. We thank you, viewers. Hope you're tuning in next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, buddy.
Steve.
This has been Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, a production of Troy University Television. Opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of Troy University, its administration, faculty, staff, or students.